Hi, William Hououin here for a new Villagers and Heroes poll discussion. So, the last one was called All About Power. Let's see what V was asking. All About Power, Power Creep, the gradual unbalancing of a game due to excessive releases of new content, leaving the older ones underpowered. Do you think power creep exists in VNH, and if so, would you say it is problematic? Do you think there is a such thing as being too powerful in PvE games? Why or why not? What would you say is threshold for being too powerful in VNH if such a threshold exists? For example, soloing endgame elders, etc. How much more powerful should an endgame player be compared to a non-endgame player in an unscaled environment? How much more powerful should an endgame player be compared to a non-endgame player in a scaled environment? Do you prefer vertical growth, more powerful, higher rarity items, or horizontal growth, new builds, items, at the same strength level? What would you say contributes most to a character's overall power combat performance? So, let's see what the community thinks about all that. So first we have Alicia saying, do you think power creep exists in VNH? And if so, would you say it's problematic? I have not played enough to know if it is a problem yet, but I do think that most MMOs have power creeps. Do you think there is such a thing as being too powerful in PvE games? No, as the mobs are constantly growing in power as time goes on. And I agree, and I would add, mobs can't complain about being wrecked by powerful players, so yeah. What would you say is threshold for being too powerful in VNH? Not sure about in Endgame, but as of now, no. No comment on the two next question. And then, do you prefer vertical growth or horizontal growth? I actually prefer a mix of both, as it helps you to make things challenging as well as keep people on their toes for drops. What would you say contribute most to a character's overall power combat performance? For me, it's skills and balancing the trees properly, as well as know how to play your class. Indeed. And now we have Derry saying, do I think power creep exists in VNH? I started playing about 4 years ago. When people asked in World Chat how to level quickly, the advice they got from everyone was not to rush. The whole game was the game, and you should enjoy exploring and questing, and not worry about your level. Now, when people ask in World Chat how to gain XP fast, they get advice about Pi, Ardent Society, strategies with main quest bounties, etc. Also, I have heard statements that regular world adventuring is not a good measure of player power level, that it is easy, etc. These statements contain pretty compelling evidence that yes, power creep has occurred. Yes, it's a problem because the greater the imbalance between upcoming players and established veteran players, the greater their interests and desires will diverge. I see an issue here with needing to retain the veterans without alienating the newbies. If content becomes too unbalanced, it could hurt retention of new players. On the other hand, those who have been around for a while need something to keep their interest. It's a tough problem. Yeah, I think it's explained quite nicely here. I totally agree with that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be an MMO developer, I don't think. Alright, now Fergus saying, do you think power creep exists in VNH, and if so, would you say it is problematic? It's inherent in the model used for character leveling when combined with a persistent world that sees regular changes, updates to content. Do you think there is such a thing as being too powerful in PvE games? Yes, if no game content presents a challenge to a significant percentage of characters, then there is a power balance issue. What would you say is threshold for being too powerful in VNH if such threshold exists? See previous response. How much more powerful should an endgame player be compared to a non-endgame player in an unscaled environment? Pulling a number out of the air. 4x. How much more powerful should an endgame player be compared to a non-endgame player? 1.25x. Do you prefer vertical growth or horizontal growth? Both? I prefer to see characters improve in skill and acquire new abilities with increasing level while also acquiring gear that moderately enhance the character's skill and abilities. What would you say contribute most to a character's overall power, combat performance? I really have no idea. I will say that I will say the term endgame automatically gets me hackles up. It's shortened for nothing in the game matters until your character is at max level. Everything else is secondary at best. This idea is reinforced by comments in Discord and the forums. Just endure the grind until you've reached max level and are ready to start playing the actual game. I agree with that. I really don't like the... I don't hate the end game stuff, but the whole game should be fun. The fun shouldn't be held up until you played 100 hours of boring stuff. Anyway. And the last but not the least, Matt Fish, who has answers. Who would have thought? Do you think power creep exists in VNH? And if so, would you say it's problematic? I haven't seen the progression of players from the onset of the game, so I can't answer that part. Do you think there is such a thing as being too powerful in PvE games? Yes, because I am an American and I'm entitled to my opinion. What would you say is threshold for being too powerful in VNH, if such a threshold exists? If I'm so powerful that everything becomes boring, then I am too powerful. It is at that point where power is getting in the way of my enjoyment of the game and instilling within me a desire to play something else. How much more powerful should an endgame player be compared to a non-endgame player in an unscaled environment? Enough to tell that there is a level difference. I don't believe there is a fixed value where you can say this is the exact power difference we want. The actual value varies from game to game depending on things like the number of levels, various design choices, new mechanics introduced, and so on. In Villagers and Heroes, Damon has chosen a system in which players have the exact same amount of potential power when fighting against opponents of a similar level, with the only truly scaling stats being health, base ability damage, and any derivative stats, like regen and shielding. And these values double every 10 levels. The question is, how does this compare to what I have in mind for a perfect balance? I had a page worth of additional answer here, but I decided it would be better to keep the answer simple. Unscaled environments don't work in Villagers and Heroes. There would have to be a lot of changes to some really old systems to make such a thing meaningful. That said, the actual power differences seem to work well for about 55 levels. After that you can one-shot an elder boss with a good crit, and there isn't much point to having more power than that in my opinion. How much powerful should an endgame player be compared to a non-endgame player in a scaled environment? My opinion on this will be quite controversial, but I reckon that it's why I'm here, LOL. I believe there should be no difference whatsoever between an endgame character and a level 1 player in potential. The differences in power would be from mechanics not available at earlier levels, plus the amount of time spent developing the character at endgame. If someone could be at level 1 just as long as a level 95 is at endgame, I feel like they should have the same power level in scaled content. There should not be blighted items that give additional power outside the blight region. Inside the blight region is fine. There should not be anything like elder levels that give permanent power beyond what is normally allowed. Again, inside the blight region is fine. Do you prefer vertical growth, more powerful, higher rarity items, or horizontal growth, new builds item at the same strength level? Growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell, Edward Abbey. The problem with growth of either type in an MMO is that the growth must be infinite or have an end. The quicker we can accept that growth as an end, the quicker we can start enjoying the other people playing the game with us. I finished my character growth in about 4 months and have been playing for almost 3 years. So the vast majority of my time in game was spent not growing. And yet I enjoyed myself. Why? Because I enjoy playing with other people. But to answer your question more directly, if I had to choose, I would choose horizontal growth, like having more stuff to do, more buttons to press, more cool effects, mounts, toys to show off. If you wish to introduce those items as part of a level increase, that is fine, just give me stuff to do. What would you say contributes most to a character's overall power combat performance? I will give the simple version. Outside of raids, expertise and player skill. Inside of raids, solo, the power you get from dungeoneering and class choice. Inside of raids group, the power you get from dungeoneering and player skill. Have fun, William. LOL. Well, I did have fun, and this was a short one, but I'm quite happy about that because I'm about to leave to go watch a movie, which is Jurassic World. So, yeah, have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for watching, and bye-bye.